Serge Stinckwich is a computer scientist with different expertise, but focusing on complex modeling, particularly for developing countries in areas, if I'm correct, like epidemiology and disaster management. I think it's fair to say that he must have been busy for the past few years. And he had the opportunity to lead projects in Vietnam, in Cameroon, and he is also involved in internationally contributing to technologies, environmental surveillance technologies. So very interesting background. And our other speaker of the day, and I'm really happy because it's not very often that we have the opportunity to welcome young speakers on stage. So I think we can clap again for him. So Scott Yang is an MBA graduate from the University of Macau. He has expertise in real estate development, managed assets such as malls, hotels, and a service department in Hengqin. And he's currently working for the Zhuguang group. My pronunciation is correct. And he is overseeing training programs and event organization. And during his studies, he led an in-depth analysis of the regulation, ethical concerns with the rise of AI in the tourism industry. So I think it's a great opportunity to pick his mind today during our discussion. All right. So to begin, I just wanted to ask you two, both of you, if you could fill us in on the latest work that you've been doing regarding AI technology. Maybe we will start with Serge.
Thank you. Bonjour à tous. Merci de l'invitation. So thank you for having me today. So it's a pleasure to discuss in this panel with Scott and Charles. And as Charles already mentioned, I'm a computer scientist, so I know a little bit about AI, the ethics of AI, but maybe because today it's very interesting topics. It's not only we are living in a very complex world, so everything is interrelated. So tourism, data ethics, AI, cross-border data flows, they are interlinked together. There are some very interesting influences and impact of all of these technologies and topics together. So it's a very important discussion. So maybe sometimes technical. Sorry about that. We try to do our best to speak and to try to explain in very simple terms. So. Since 2020, I'm the head of research at the United Nations University Institute in Macau. So one of the 13 research institutes of the UNU. So UNU is the research arm of the United Nations, and we are doing mostly applied research. We are trying to develop policy-relevant research, and we work a lot with policymakers, other UN agencies, academics around the world. And we, since I arrived, we have started to develop an important portfolio about artificial intelligence. So, recently, I was last week I was in Mongolia for a project that we are doing with UNESCO, and we have been doing an assessment. You know that UNESCO, at the end of 2021, they have made recommendations on the ethics of AI. It's the very important document that has been signed by, I think, all the member states, so 193 member states. And so we are working with them in Mongolia to try to assess their AI landscape, where they are currently in terms of AI, their industries, and how we can make recommendations to help them to design a more ethical use of AI. So this is one example of what we are doing. So we are doing also policy brief on this. Recently we published, and I will talk maybe later about that, we published a policy brief on the topics of today, the cross-border data flows. So it's a policy brief that we have written recently with the rector of my university, who is also an expert on AI, who is currently located in Tokyo. And so I will share later on some of the insight of this policy brief for you.
Excellent indeed. I think one of the point of today is to extract some key insights of this policy brief, but we can also invite everybody later to it's free access to read the policy brief. So now, Scott, can you fill us in on your research about AI?
Thank you, Charles.
Bonjour à tous. So my name is Scott, and I'm a fresh graduate MBA student from this city. And today is my great honor to be here to bring the topic with me, the AI ethic in tourism. It is actually a topic that inspired by my professor Javier. Hi, Javier, how are you doing? Like your hairstyle, by the way. Okay, so right before the existence of ChatGPT, he already had this forward-looking discussion with me on this topic. And by the time I remember, he asked me, shall we do everything that is technically possible? And I was like, wow, that's a very good question, and let's do a research. So actually, according to our literature review, there are a lot of existing theory about ethical concerns and guidelines, and also people in the academic world, they talk about pros and cons in adopting the AI technology. So our purpose of doing this research is to build a bridge in between theory and practical. We want to tackle what's the direct stakeholders' perception and opinion. So in total, there were 6 of the ethical issues that we extract from the tourism industry. And then we investigate 2 groups of people separate, hotel practitioner, and we have the tourists as well. And then finally we come up with their awareness, perception, and consequence of their perception. And that's basically what we have done during our research. Thank you.
That's actually quite interesting. I didn't really know exactly the story. So all this research was triggered by this question from Javier, which is actually a very deep question. So this was not prepared in the question book, because I'm curious. Where do you stand right now? Do you think we should do what is technically possible?
Well, I think it depends. I mean, regarding to something that affects the ethical issue, we think we will, as long as we address that problem and then we deal with it, we fix it, then that technology can be continuous. So it depends on what technology that we are talking about. Yes.
I agree. Right. So to guide our discussion today, I don't know if Stephanie, we can put it on the side screen. I just wanted to use a very simple image of the tourist journey data flow. So basically, usually you have 3 phases. You're gonna have the pre-trip, during the trip phase, and finally the post-trip. I think this is a good illustration when we're about what we are gonna talk about today. And so the first, so just maybe to give a bit more information, for the pre-trip, what I mean is when you're at home and you're booking your trip. During the trip, you're gonna interact with local businesses, hotel, restaurants, activities, and so on and so forth. Finally, post-trip, you might still be connected somehow, in a way or another, with the businesses and other things that you have been doing during your trip. So that's your how we see the tourist data flow in terms of data. Serge, the first question for you, before we dive deeper into the topic and try to address the questions that we have today, could you please give us a sort of frame, a definition of what do you mean by cross-border data transfer? Sorry.
Yeah, thank you for the question. So it's so I guess we have all this experience of downloading some files on the internet. So this is a transfer of data from one location to another location. So in this specific example, we transfer some data from a data set. We don't know exactly where is this data set, maybe in the US, maybe in Japan, we have no idea exactly. And the data is transferred to our computer, so maybe in Macau. So this is basically what we are talking about when we talk about data, cross-border data flow. So it's data that movement between two different locations that cross some borders, in fact, so international borders. And you know that there are different regulations depending on the country. So we have to pay attention about that. So maybe the data that we are transferring is not is maybe some sensitive data, health data, health records, something like that. So it's maybe not possible to transfer immediately. There are some regulations that we have to take into account. So we have to think about that in the context of digital technologies and networks. What are the regulations? Because it's very important that we, for the economic growth, for example, that we have we have some kinds of fluidity for these data flows. I'm talking about the perspective of a user, but in the context, for example, of tourism, it's not only users, tourists that transfer data, but also businesses. So there are B2B transfer on the internet or on other kinds of networks around the world. So this might be automated transfer or transfer that are done by specific employees of these businesses. So every time that we have to deal with data movement across different jurisdictions, some problems might occur. So we know that, for example, in Europe you have the GDPR that is a kind of data protection laws that govern a little bit how the data of the citizen are allowed to be transferred from one country to another country. So, and even if you, and this is interesting for the GDPR, for example, it's something that works outside Europe, in fact, because every time that you have to deal with European data from European citizens, you have to take into account this protection laws.
Yeah, absolutely. I believe every international company today has to deal with GDPR in a way or another. And so, would that be a good example? Let's say I'm a French citizen and I'm booking a trip to Asia. I'm going to Booking.com. I'm going to actually send my data to Booking.com. Booking.com needs to revert some of these data to the final hotel that might be in Macau. That is, for instance, I think a good exchange of data across several jurisdictions. So I think it's going to be interesting to see, to learn more about that.
I think it's not too tricky for the example that you give us, because it's not sensitive data. But imagine that you have to transfer. You are, I don't know, working in France, for example, for a long time, and you have some kinds of medical records, and you want to transfer your medical records here in Macau. I'm not sure this is possible. I think it's. Yeah, maybe this is possible, but it will be very, very difficult. So we need some regulations. We need some and global regulations, because if imagine that you have to take into account all countries together. So it's very complex. So we have to deal with global regulations.
Absolutely, and I think one key insight of today, and what I've learned reading at your policy report, is that we're not going to tackle too much the cybersecurity type of things. While it's very important to protect data, I think what I've learned discussing with Serge as well is those policies are more, of course, to protect the data, but also to really foster the sharing of data and knowledge to boost business and other, as you said, and other things. It might not be business strictly, but it would be really beautiful if you can go to any hospital in the same country or another country where they can instantly access your medical records, so that you could have the best care whenever you are. Sadly, I'm pretty sure because of that, a lot of people have died because people didn't have the right information on time. Now, to go back on on a lighter topic, Scott, one of the big questions that you wanted to tackle with your research with Professor Javier was to what extent travelers have ethical concern about the rise of AI in the tourism industry. Can you tell us more about this, like the key findings that you made, and also maybe first remind us of what type of ethical issues you've been looking at?
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the question. So among the 6 issues that we extract from the literature review, there are both and then from the survey that I just talked about. We interviewed the hotel practitioner and the tourists, and then both survey they yielded the same result, surprisingly, which is privacy taking the top spot, and followed by the liability, transparency. They got interactional, bias, and representation. So, so what is this number 1 privacy means? So you have any clue for in the digital world? What is privacy mean to you?
For me, I mean, sorry. For me, privacy would be privacy of data, making sure that when I share something with, I mean, when I'm either browsing the internet or when I'm sharing some data, filling forms, things like that, sharing like personal data, they're not going to be leaked anywhere. That the businesses that I interact with are using secured, encrypted database, and that they're not going to share it with anyone.
Yes.
That's why I mean, might not be the full picture, but
yeah, likewise. So I'm going to tell you my understanding of the privacy in the digital world. So it means, for me, it's like your identity. It's an information that distinguishes you with Serge. If I know your information, then I can pretend that I am you, and I can take everything out of your pocket. So nowadays, like in the digital world, I surely believe that it got the new definition. So a violation of privacy makes our behavior patterns, preferences very predictable. So that's why people, every national, they're trying to protect their privacy so tightly. For the number 2, liability, what is that? It is. What does it stand for? Anybody have an idea? Okay. So it stands for when a people encounter some physical harm. For instance, like you rent a car from Uber, and then it gives you, in the future, it gives you an autonomous car. So the car is automatically drive by itself. And then, not wood, car accident. So who exactly will be responsible for this accident? Is it the AI algorithm, or is it the car manufacturer, the designer? So that's my drive us very confused on that. So what I mean is from the product liability law, and the liability will belong to the AI manufacturer who makes this car, and then as the AI is developing nowadays, it can be understood as a system that process the data resemble the intelligent behavior. So in another word, it has its own right to make decision. So that might be a little confused, and it will be not fair to always blame on the AI manufacturer and stuff, because it will cause some burden, significant burden to them. So yes, that's the mostly basically the top 2 of the ethical issue that we elaborate.
No, super interesting. Especially I was not as familiar with the liability issue, so thank you very much for that. Just a quick question for the audience. This is a little parenthesis. Who is actively concerned about his data and his privacy when he's browsing online? Thank you for your honesty. So that was one, and I don't blame you. I consider myself the same. I wanted to ask, this is more of a personal question. I'm not expecting a perfect one, but why do you think people are not more concerned about their data? I mean, what I mean is, if today I'm out of the blue, I'm a stranger in the street, and I'm stopping you and say, can you share with me your passport or your credit card, will you do it? No. Online is different. Why do you guys ever think about that, or why do you think people are not like all using more sophisticated password tools or you know, other way of protection?
Yeah, it's a very important question, because I guess there are some psychological reasons about that. Maybe the people, they feel safe, or they feel that they have nothing to hide. But you have to know that, yeah, the people, they can, now it's possible to clone your voice, it's possible to, based on your pictures, to make a video of you. So it's very easy to even if you have nothing to hide, for you think that you are, yeah, a good citizen, there's no problem. The bad people might try to steal your bank card, for example, things like that. So it's very important to be as safe as possible. So I'm a little bit paranoid, so I have a password manager. I use a very strong encryption for all my web browsers. So I'm really, yeah, keen about trying to also educate my colleagues to do the same. I think it's very important that everyone takes this very seriously. And if you don't take this seriously, yeah, one day there will be something bad happening to you, and yeah, it will be, yeah, it will be very difficult for you to do something after that.
Yeah, I absolutely agree on that. And I think the reason I was asking this question is because we already see a lot of scams around, but with the rise of AI, it's going to be on another level. One thing that I wanted to mention as well, it's true that we feel like, okay, I have nothing to hide, even if somebody's getting into my messages or something, it's not a big deal. But think about the impact it could have on other people. I'm going to take a very concrete example. My grandma, she's on Facebook, she's posting a lot of stuff. It's easy to find that I'm her grandson. She would probably be easier to hack than me. Then if somebody can access messages, get more context, or audio messages, and that's something that Serge mentioned. I think something that we couldn't really see coming, and that I found quite interesting, is now we have a lot of audio recording of all of us on multiple platforms. If I can access one of, let's say, a WeChat or Instagram or anything where you have a lot of audio, if I have 10 minutes of your voice, I can really clone it pretty well. Then if I send a voice message to your relatives using your voice, I think they will react more strongly than a scam email. So we do have to be very careful. It's quite sensitive. So now to come back closer to the topic of the day, I wanted to be a bit more concrete. So let's say our tourist now has been traveling, is crossed the border, is in Macau. What type of AI applications we can now start to interact with or see in the tourism industry? So either use cases that are already here, or perhaps AI applications that we will see in the future in the tourism industry. Can you fill us in on that, Scott?
Yeah, I know this one. So obviously nowadays we have the ChatGPT, so we all notice that there is a chatbot assistant already, right? So for example, some hotel, they can already adopt this technique to automatically text back to the guests about their inquiry, about their complaints and suggestion, anything. So a traditional customer service personnel face the challenge like difficulty in training and standardizing the process, procedure, and also inadequate manpower during the peak season, leading to bad service experience. Nowadays, AI can already solve all this problem. And then also on the other, on top of that, there is I remember I saw some news from the internet that Macau group, they already adopt this AI powered technology on the backyard in the employee canteen, and then to save the food waste. And then in Hanqing, in the place I live, there's a government building. You know, before when you are an employee and then you go to the canteen, you get dishes, and then at the end of the line there will always be a cashier who calculate or the amount of your dishes. But now with the empowerment of the AI, it already can deduct your account amount like in 2 seconds. So it's pretty fast. And then I remember there's another one interesting application of AI. I'm not sure if it's happened in Las Vegas or Macau, but the news says that those surveillance camera, they can already detect the gambler's face emotion, and then they can what's that again? They can offer them a special something special to keep them on gambling. So that's another thing called manipulation, right? It kind of nurtures your behavior and then keep losing money. So it's a bit scary, of course. I'm not sure if Macau's doing that. Anybody here know?
I think there's definitely something that is going on in the casino industry, but not necessarily with AI tech yet, but
Yeah.
it's definitely something that
Doable.
it's part of the business.
Yes.
For sure. And the one follow-up question that I had on that, with this increasing like surveillance technology, whether it's to detect fraud or whether it's to actually check the behaviors of the gambler, and in order to make them stay longer, which is how the house wins usually. The more you stay, the more you're likely to lose. So we talked about the tourists. They could feel potentially uncomfortable, but how about the employee side? How do they feel about the rise of this type of AI application or robotics to control their work or their space? Did you see a growing sort of concern of that from the employee side?
Well, as far as we know, we kind of figure out there is two kinds of employee, two paradigms from according to their the employee material, and then the first one is somebody, first kind of person. They are worried about the existence of the new technique, and then they assume that humans' capability is inferior to AI. So showing that there are less confidence and stuff. But you know what is interesting is like when they are standing at a dominant position, or they take in charge of the AI, they believe that they can. The AI is listening to their order, then their resistance will be reduced. So this is the first type. The second type is what we call the welcome type. So they believe in the human and AI mutually beneficial relationship, and then they believe that everything can be solved by the improvement of the technology. So I personally belong to the second type, and I think nowadays AI really do a lot of beneficial to us, and then but on the other hand, another opinion that expressed by this group of people is that they still feel the AI's lack of empathy is their initial inherent drawback. So maybe sometime in the future, this problem can be addressed a little bit. Then their welcomeness will be higher. Yes.
No, that makes a lot of sense to me. Maybe just another not prepared personal question is, to bounce back on that, because now you're an employee, you're working. Do you feel yourself threatened by AI technology in what you do? Do you think it could really replace you totally from what you do, or do you think it will just help you to be more productive or do more?
Yeah, I personally agree with the second type because I'm always holding the positive. Recently, I'm trying really hard to learn how to ask a question to the ChatGPT, then I'll get back a very efficient answer. So I think the AI replacement and its evolution is inevitable. So sooner or later, of course, some repetitive or routine job will be replaced, but and at the same time, if we learn how to better use this technique, then we can be more efficiency. So that's not a problem. And also, you know, when for example, in the tourism context, okay, so when people start using this technique more frequently, then of course people will be free to have extra time, free from their work, right? So they will have more time to spend on the tourism industry. They will have more time to focus on the tourist experience and enjoy the tours. So there will be more chance for the tourism industry, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's actually quite interesting. If I reformulate, basically, the rise of AI technologies could help humans to actually spend more time with the guests because that relieve them from their like tedious tasks that take time. So more time for the guests. That actually, yeah, that makes sense to me. A quick question for our audience: who is actively now using AI applications in their daily work? There's no trap, don't worry. I'm not gonna ask you. And second question, if it's not too sensitive, who is working in a company where they are not allowed to use AI technology? Okay, that's interesting.
It's very difficult to not use AI because even if you use Word nowadays, there is an AI assistant involved. So, yeah, so it's very, very difficult to.
There's actually a lot of AI in the background of very common applications that we use. That's true. And so to follow up on that, Serge, we talked about earlier the fact that our data are going to transit through several territories. Especially here in the GBA, we're in a very, I think, unique context where we have between Hong Kong, Macau, and mainland China different law and approach to these things. Can you fill us in on the current discussions and standards on cross-border data transfer in the region or more global?
Yeah, thank you for the question. It's quite difficult to answer because I'm not really an expert also of these questions. I'm more on the computer science side. I just want to mention maybe one example that happens recently in 2020. So you know that so in March 2020, the year there was the COVID-19. So the Macau government established a center to coordinate all the activities regarding that. And one of the very interesting things that they have done is that they have because it was possible to move from Macau to China or vice versa. And so they have done this very interesting, innovative initiative at that time to have a cross-jurisdictional health code system. So it was a kind of so that you can transfer your data, your health code, and data related to you between China and Macau and Singapore. So it was very quite unique, and I think one of the first examples, because there was no mechanism to do that before, so we do that specifically during the COVID-19, and it was based on blockchain. So blockchain is a way to have a kind of trust in the data. And so they use all this technology. It's not very well-known example, but I think we always know when we talk about that. But it's I think one very interesting example of something that has been done because of the urgency of the situation between Macau and China. After that, regarding the current state, there is just want to mention some of the current cross-border data flows regulations. So there are for sure some in China, in Japan. There, in 2019, there is something called data-free flow with trust. There are also, so most of these regulations are very, it's only national effort, in fact. I mean, they don't take into consideration transfer with other countries. There are more regional efforts, so I think the one that is the more known is the one from the European Union, so the GDPR, where you can, they have inside the GDPR, they have some kinds of guidelines for data transfer between the countries. And there are more global efforts done by the World Trade Organization, and this is also linked to the regulation regarding AI. So you know that currently there are lots of discussions regarding AI, how AI should be, because AI is based on data again. So this is why all these discussions are going together. So there are ongoing discussions regarding AI. You know maybe that the Secretary General of the United Nations, Antonio Guterres, just pushed this idea of having a high-level body on AI. So there is currently a panel that has been established a few weeks ago that will try to work on this new UN agency to regulate AI in the future. So all of these discussions regarding data ethics, cross-border data flows, AI are a little bit linked together because they are very, everything is important to take into consideration at the same time.
Yeah, no, actually, a couple of things I wanted to bounce back on. I think the QR code thing is a very good example because it feels very natural. It feels like that should be how it works. But as you said, it's quite of a unique thing, and it was not possible before to share this type of data smoothly between two territories. And in a way, I think it's going to be hard to fix, but what I can sense from that is that every country has been building their own different system. France had their own app, their thing, and you have a lot of redundancy and waste of energy, and I mean, for human and tech, building those systems, those similar systems, but very different, that actually don't really connect together. If I go to France with my Macau QR code, it's useless. But it would be actually, it would have been, if we imagine if everybody had the same standard for sharing this type of data, if you went from one country to another, you could use the same, that would have been much more efficient in every way. So I think at least between China and Macau, that was something really interesting and really good to see. And the second one, kind of linked to what I mentioned, but I read in your paper that those regulations, those like more interoperability between countries could also promote sustainable tourism, not only tourism, but I would say help companies and governments to be aligned with the sustainable development goals that the United Nations have been set.
Yeah, it's very important, and I think this is one of the recommendations that we have put inside this policy brief is that if we have more global regulations on data flows, it will help the achievement of the SDGs in 2030. So it's very important. You can imagine, for example, if the researchers want to share some data about climate change, it's maybe a bit difficult right now because of the different regulations and jurisdictions. So and also for, I'm thinking about the journey of the tourist. So for food safety, for example, if there's some, I don't know, if the countries they want to share some information about that, it's something that definitely will help the tourism if we have these kind of things. For health issues also, if you have, I don't know, any health issues when you are traveling. So So all of this will help to sustain the sustainable development goals at the end. So it's very important that, but as we already mentioned, there's this tension between, okay, we want to try to have this global regulation, but at the same time there are some sovereignty issues. The people, they want to keep their regulation, they don't want to share, they don't want that the data of the citizens might be shared with other countries. So we have to, so it's a lot of regulation that should be put in place. At the moment it's just the beginning of that. So there are some regional initiative, global initiative, but we are very far from having global regulation for the data flows.
Okay, yeah, got it. And so one thing that also, when you were talking, remind me of another work that you conducted that was on the use of synthetic data to feed AI models. One question is because our main topic today is about the ethic in AI, and you said it, AI is basically data. It relies on a lot of data. So in a way there is ethical way to use it, but you also need to feed it in an ethical way from the beginning. Do you know, or have you seen anything on how AI companies feed AI algorithm in ethical way or unethical way, to illustrate this?
It's a very tricky question. Thank you for the question.
It was not prepared.
Yeah. So yeah, it's not prepared. So yeah, there are lots of discussion regarding the use of data and the use of AI algorithms. So we know that companies like OpenAI, they are not really open regarding how the data was curated. So some journalists discovered that the data has been curated by a company in in Kenya, sorry. That so the people of these companies, they have to label, because you know that every time that we are using an AI algorithm based on data, we have to label the data, because there is a lot of toxic data coming from the internet. So we need to find some people to say, okay, this is sexual content, this is violent content. So, and these people of these companies in Kenya, they spend hours and hours looking at this data, and they were completely, there's lots of psychological issues. And after a while, they decide to stop this partnership with OpenAI. So you see that these companies sometimes they are at the borderlines of ethical use of the AI algorithms. So it's a very important discussion. The AI can impact also, can harm with the bias. We talked a little bit about the bias before. You know, for example, if you want to contract an insurance, an health insurance, for example, depending of your gender, depending of your age, depending of lots of parameters, you might obtain or not the contract at the end. So it's important to treat everyone the same. So we are working on that on the institute, trying to understand what are these bias, so in order to make the AI system more accountable, more transparent, more safe and secure at the end. So we are working on that, trying to develop also global understanding of that, trying to work with stakeholders around the world to try to sustain and develop this kind of safe AI in the future.
I think that was a pretty good answer. I don't know if you want to add anything on top of that, Scott.
Yes. So to be honest, the AI developer, behind the AI technology, there are always guys like Serge. Like, he's not evil.
Yeah, guys are women.
Yeah, all guys are women.
No, I mean, it's important to be also inclusive, because even for AI developers, if there are only white guys who develop AI algorithm, for sure there will be bias for them. So sorry to interrupt you, but this is very important also to consider that for AI developers, it's very important that they are as inclusive as possible.
Yeah, so what I mean is AI developer AI developer, they are not originally, they are doing on purpose or offend somebody on purpose, but the matter is always from the data. The data stand for us. The information come from all of us. So what I mean is sometimes maybe we cannot bring on too much on the technique, but we need to have a little bit self-reflection. Then what if an AI system consists of all those bias and racism, and then at the end of the day, the people will abandon from using it. People are smart. People are not stupid or keep using those defect system. So that's basically what I mean.
We do spend a lot of time on Instagram watching stupid stuff, so I'm not sure.
Yes. So yeah, it's not a matter of who developed it. It's a matter of where the data come from and what do we think of the data is right or wrong. Everybody have their opinion.
Scott is you are totally right. It's in fact AI algorithms are not biased. They are not racist. This is the data, and the data is come from our world. So the world is racist and biased. So this is why at the end AI algorithms are like that. So it's very important to think about the initial problem that are inside the data that we are collecting.
Yeah, AI just resemble us.
Yeah.
If we are not good, then how can be a good AI assist?
Absolutely. It kind of mimic our own civilization. And maybe to conclude this talk, would you have? I remember, Scott, that in your research you made some recommendations at different level, industry level, individual business level, government level. Would you have a couple of key recommendations to regulate AI ethics?
Yes. So as I mentioned, ethical issues always be a problem, and I believe it's an ongoing and dynamic process of figuring out what's going on. Let's say before, most of the ethical issues are based on the people's imagination, probably like representation. What do we deal with the robot? How we treat it? Is it fair or wrong? And then nowadays, it is coming closer to the technical part. So we mentioned we have bias, we have liability, those things. So what I mean to sum up is it's a dynamic process. So, and as I said, if there is a problem exists, then there always be a solution, because it's a natural evolution process. We choose which model that we use. We choose what AI system that we adopt. So for me, I think from the individual perspective, we always need to observe, reflect, and then we make discussion, make correction. And that's basically what every individual in this room can do, right? And then for the business part, maybe something need to be considered. We hope that the business can establish a dedicated data management department, and it's like I believe in the future AI they have another sort of consultancy position like lawyers. AI also can be, there's another audit the ethic of AI, auditor. So that we can entrust all our sensitive data to the third party, trustful third party, and also we can establish a branch of SOP and guidelines soon, and training our our employee to improve their awareness of AI ethics, maybe. And for the government, I think the good thing to do is to foster the collaboration in between AI practitioner and also the world-leading cutting-edge researcher. So that's basically what the government can do. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for this very extensive answer. Do you have anything to add on top of that, Serge, to conclude our discussion and let the audience ask some questions?
Yes, so at the end of the policy brief that we wrote recently, we made some recommendations. So I have some copies of this policy brief, so I can, if some people are interested here, I can give you the copy, or I can give you also the link to the PDF online. Yeah, I agree with Scott. What is very important is capacity building and trying to educate the people about the people from the industry about that. I think it's important to have a multi-stakeholder dialogue. So academics, industries, government, etc. To discuss about, to have a kind of consensus about the regulations that we should put in place. Something also important, maybe more on the technical side, maybe not really fancy, but I think the interoperability is very important. The standards. So what kind of standards we should put in place? There are already, it's quite easy, in fact, from the technical perspective, but I think there are lots of discussions among the countries to put these standards in place. So these are very important if you want to develop more secure and responsive data flows among the countries in the future.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, both of you, for answering my questions and even the trickiest one. Thank you. So now I would like to let our audience ask a few questions, if you have any.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. It was an interesting talk. I've got 3 questions, actually. So, actually, I've got loads of questions, but I'll keep it to 3. So you've touched a lot on data, and I guess you touched on data because, as you say, the data is necessary for AI. So I see data is very important. On the other side of AI, I see AI more as decision models, predictive models, generative models, right? So when you talked about data, so the first question is about data. You talked about GDPR, and it's all about protection of data for individuals, right? So as a lot of the companies I deal with have the other problem. So basically they have data, and if you work with China, for example, you need to host all your data in China. And there are different approaches to that. You could split your servers, or you could put everything there, or you could just ditch the regulations. So what is your sorry, it is what happens. So what in this case, what is the best approach for a company that is facing such a regulation? So that's my first question. Second one on AI, you were touching about casinos, and we were talking about ethics of AI in the tourism industry, right? So here in Macau, we've got casinos, and so AI can be used in casinos. So where do we draw the line? So if you're using AI to know your customer better and predict what he wants and what may actually be enticing to him, where does it become manipulative? Where is it actually enhancing the experience, and when are we crossing the line to unethical use of AI? Me too. Yeah. And the third question was, you touched on government. So how up to speed do you think governments are with AI? Thank you.
Those are three really good questions, and I'm really happy to let one of our two speakers.
Thank you for the question. I can do maybe the first one. So about it's very difficult to answer to your question because for sure at the moment we don't have any global regulations or even regional regulations, and for sure some countries are very protective about their data. It's about their sovereignty, so they want to keep this information as safe and as secure as possible. So there is no really good any answer to your question. I guess it depends on the situation, depends on the country, and there might be some technical solution that you want to mention about maybe having different put your data in different data centers and try to synchronize this data. So and this is why this is very important to have these regulations in place, because for sure it will reduce the burden on the companies to do that. So we immediately have a positive impact on these companies for sure. So, sorry, there's no answer, I guess.
I can take the second question actually. Maybe not answer to it, but just give a parallel. I believe if we've not been able to stop social media companies from actually retaining you on the app as long as possible, why can't we let physical businesses do the same? So I believe it is a sort of manipulation, but is it? I don't see it to be illegal to optimize your business, and your business is to, when you welcome guests in your property, you want them to spend as much time as possible in it. So it's a bit of an evil answer, but I believe yeah, exactly. I think it is the same. I really see the same with social media, and we know it's borderline unethical, but we have not really been able to stop it. So I don't think we will be able to stop that. I think to begin with, it's the responsibility of the individual. Once again, do you want to spend that much time on social media? Do you want to spend that much time and money in this type of properties? It's up to you. That's,
I think we see already lots of, if you go in the streets of Macau, you see lots of young people completely addicted to the phone. So they are already addicted to this infinite scrolling on social media. So I think it's, yeah, as you say, it's a matter of individual decisions and educations, and yeah, it's a difficult question.
So one of conclusion in our research also mentioned that the awareness of the ethics depends on the educational level. So yeah, it really depends on what people are thinking about, and as long as the method that I mentioned about, as long as we observe, reflect, discussion, and make correction, then people will sooner or later deal with it.
Absolutely agree. I think that was one of the key findings of your research that I found very interesting. Thank you for mentioning this. And maybe do you have a word on the third question?
I want to answer the third question about government and the awareness of governments about AI questions. So it really depends on the countries. So there are some leading countries. Most of the I would say developed countries are leading, especially UK, France, US, China, and Japan. They are leading all these questions. For me, it's very important to take care about the non-developed countries, developing countries also, the global south, because they have no capacity to understand what are the questions, and they might be very impacted by this algorithm, and they are, most of them, they are data poor because they don't have that much data. So compared to data-rich countries like the countries in Europe, for example, data-poor countries, it's very difficult for them to develop something because they have no data. Their language sometimes there is not that much corpus. You can find tons of documents, texts in English, in French, in Chinese, but maybe less in Swahili or less known languages in Africa. So it's a very difficult question for them. So the UN, our institute, we are trying to think about that, trying to help them to develop some capacity building so they can address these issues in the future.
Absolutely, that would be also sharing, I think those with developing countries, sharing those technologies could help them to, develop faster.
Yeah, sure.
But the opposite would unfortunately deepen the gap between rich countries and developing countries. Thank you very much, Jeremy, for these 3 questions. Does anybody else have any question for our speakers?
Scott, Serge, and of course Charles, thank you so much for this insightful discussion on AI. And we know, of course, that based on the discussion today, that the younger generation is a Generation Z, and as well as in terms of data rich, like what Serge has mentioned, that the developing countries are the one really leading the way. So my question is, in terms of the gap between the ones that's being developed and as well as the ones who is in a transition, let's say on the opposite part, what is being done in terms of, as an example, for example, I'm not going to go far away, just in Hengqin, Shanghai, Singapore, there's already driverless buses. So these are our daily lives innovation that shows how the AI is really working in our lives on a different level, right? So now the question is, what is being done for those who are to transition? Let's say, what would be the new jobs for these bus drivers, taxi drivers, and all that? Because Shanghai is already deployed, and who is in charge of this? Because private sector is leading the way to accelerate the growth of AI and as well as the development in terms of business. But is it the NGO, perhaps Serge, or the government who is looking after this particular gap to ensure that there is something for those who are to transition over time?
You mean for developing countries, the gap between developing countries and developed countries?
Not necessarily for developing, but in general, because if we are to deploy all the driverless buses, I've tried it a few times in Hengqin, for example, and in Singapore Gardens by the Bay. So if we are not going to have any drivers, what would happen to those career all their lives has always been a driver?
Just a quick question out of curiosity, Mary, because I didn't have the chance to try that. Are those buses following a sort of rail or something, or they're totally like a normal bus?
Perhaps, I don't know if Scott has tried it.
I tried it this morning.
Yeah, this morning. So in fact, well, let me have the expert.
Yeah, so it's not following any trial. So it is like it's like the Tesla technology. Like it can detect the people surrounding it when they stop, but it's following a certain routine as well. Yeah.
Okay, because that was my question. Because to give you some insight, Tesla is going to tell you if you buy a Tesla here in Macau, you can try autopilot, but only do it on the bridge. So my recommendation is don't use autopilot too much because it's really not ready and not ready for Macau. But it is a good question, Mary. I think there's still, especially in these cases, for me, what I can mention is the same as slightly different, but we can understand the image. Same as a plane pilot. Would you be happy if there's nobody in your plane? Able to, no. Even if it's mostly automated, most of the plane journey is automated, but in case of emergency, you do need a human pilot. I think it's the same with a bus or with a car at the moment. I think we're very far away from being able to just let a vehicle on autopilot with no supervision in case of emergency. So I do believe, and like trains, you still have train drivers for these reasons. So I think, especially when it comes to public transportation, you would always have, for now, a human to interact in case of emergency. So I don't see the pilot losing their job right away. But if we come to that,
I think there's the question is very interesting because I think fortunately there's no plan for people that will lose their job. I guess maybe there are some national plan, I don't know, but not sure about that. This is something that, there are lots of discussions at different levels in the UN, those OECD countries. I see recently a paper from UNDP talking about that. So there are lots of concerns about that, but I'm not sure there's any plans fortunately for the people that will lose their job. So but at the same time, it's maybe 2 or 3 years ago, people say, okay, the radiologists, the people who look at this X-rays document, they will maybe lose their job soon, but until now it doesn't happen. So you have to also think that sometimes there's lots of buzz of that's coming like that, but at the end for sure all these technologies will have an important impact on the job market. But maybe it will take more time than we expect at the beginning. And even we have now machines that can play chess and Go much better than humans, but there are still people who are playing chess and Go.
Yeah, because it's fun. It's not all about winning. I think that can conclude our talk of the day. I would like to thank again our 2 speakers for addressing how we can regulate data and AI ethics in the tourism industry and more. I would like to thank you, the FMCC and Sofitel, for letting us do this talk, and a big thank on the behalf of the Tech and Innovation Committee and all the members, and a big thank you to you for following this talk. And if you are interested in joining our mission on developing this type of event, workshop around tech and innovations, you are very welcome to join our committee. Thank you very much.
Thank you.